Okay. So I watched Star Wars The Last Jedi. I'm one of the first people actually in the world who saw this morning on a Wednesday, December 13th, 2017. And wow. What should I say? I have a few notes so I can have some sort of coherent thought and kind of explain what the movie is. This is gonna be the spoiler review. So if you don't want any spoilers, don't watch this. Okay? I'm gonna watch the spoiler-free one. This is gonna be filled with spoilers. So last chance. Okay. So the movie starts off right where the episode 7 left off, and it's basically put into three, or they split up in three parts. But you have Rey and Luke on the island, but it starts off in space with Leia basically evacuating the resistant planet with Poe, and Finn still in a coma. And well, I will give the movie this. The opening scene, really well done. It actually reminded me a little bit of the ending scene of Rogue One. You felt stakes, and it was really well done. Where the Resistance basically gets back up, and these big bombers, and all of them die except one, and they sacrifice themselves to blow up this big dreadnought. And Poe does his thing by being an awesome pilot. But the thing, even before this, all of this starts, which was an awesome scene, was really weird. Where Poe was the only one going against the dreadnought, and wanted to talk to Hux, the general of the First Order, and he starts off like in Force Awakens, like, should you talk? Should I talk first? You should talk, like this, and then like this humor, and it continued for like a minute or two, and I've never seen humor like this in Star Wars, like more situational humor with even with Jar Jar or Han Solo, but never just straight in your face like this. And this goes on for the whole movie. I'm gonna go more into depth with this. But from this way forward, they it's basically a Battlestar Galactica. Or the few episodes, like the first episodes of Battlestar Galactica, where these guys, basically the whole movie, are chasing Leia and the rest of the Resistance, and they have very, very little fuel, and this is basically like just maybe a days after episode 7, and they continue on with limited amount of fuel, and they are getting chased and being tracked by where Snoke shows up and chases them, and this is where the whole plot of the movie goes from. We have Finn and this Rose chick. They split up into a separate, where you have those two. You have Leia and Poe, and you have Luke and Rey. So when Finn and Rose split up, you have Rose. She had a sister who basically sacrificed herself to kill the dreadnought. And Finn, of course, there's no character progression. He just wants to abandon ship right away, and then suddenly turns around and does a 180, and suddenly wants to save the entire resistance by trying to track a coder or a thief, so to speak, to stop the entire fleet, or the rest of the fleet, or the resistance, to be tracked and chased. Which, if I'm gonna come back to this, but that entire plot of the movie could have just been cut out, because that makes no sense at all when you at the end of the movie. So you also have Rey and Luke on the island, and I mean, Luke has just regressed so much as a character, and you found out what the issue was between Kylo and Ben. No, sorry, Luke. Or Ben and Luke, as he also is called, Ben Solo, is that Luke sensed the darkness inside him and turned off on his lightsaber and thought about killing him, but then changed his mind. And Kylo misinterpreted this and then attacked Luke and then sacked the entire Jedi temple. And that's how he turned. And then you have Luke, basically almost the entire movie just wanting to end the Jedi Order because it's evil or something. I mean, that is not really explained. Anyways, so most of the first act is just him refusing to train Leia. No, sorry, not Leia, Rey. Sorry. And I mean, when Rey actually shows that she's force sensitive somehow and notices the Jedi books, or Luke agrees to train or give her 3 lessons, which we only found out he only did 2 of them. But anyways, the first one was to basically feel the force, which you see in the trailer, where she starts moving the rocks and yeah, she basically reaches out, and Luke just gets frightened because she goes straight for the darkness or something. I mean, that is not gone into depth either. Why Luke is afraid of Rey, and I mean, Luke is just terribly written most of the movie, where Luke is supposed to show why even the Jedi Order has to end, and he just feel when Rey reaches out to the Force, she senses the darkness and just senses it and reaches out to it, and then she can't control it. But Rey being Rey, I mean, Rey in this movie is still a fucking Mary Sue. And so you have and there is also some slapstick humor with the porgs, the small birds which you see. And Chewie is almost nowhere to be seen. You have 2 small scenes where he basically is part of. And I mean, during the stay on the island, Kylo and Rey have this connection, and they talk to each other. And Rey is getting convinced that she can turn Kylo to the light side. And it kind of reminds me of Episode 5, where Luke actually just goes off because he sees the future and wants to save his friends, but Rey just goes off and wants to turn Kylo into to the light side, which is kind of makes no sense because she could try to train with Luke and I mean, the writing is just all over the place. So she leaves with Chewbacca and the Porgs, while at this time Luke, or sorry, I should have told this before, because Rey is a Mary Sue. She gets angry at Luke on this planet, and she starts to fight with Luke. With her stick, and Luke just force pulls some kind of stick to defend himself with, and then suddenly she just beats him, and has him beat with when she uses a lightsaber, and she could have basically killed him. So she outdid Luke. Even though it seems he was, I don't know what the point of this scene was, because Luke should have taught her a lesson, not to leave. And I mean, the entire scene is just so badly paced, where Luke's character does not remind me at all. Luke should have been guiding Rey and taught her the ways of the Force instead of being secluded and all of that. And just letting her walk all over him. Anyways, after she beats him and then leaves with the lightsaber, of course, Luke wants to basically burn what is left of the Jedi Order, the books and the Force tree. And suddenly Yoda shows up, and he does not want to burn the tree. He has a change of heart, and then Yoda suddenly has powers when he's a Force ghost and can use lightning and destroys the books and the tree, and gives Luke a lesson that even teachers are failures, and we shall learn from our failures. Anyways, so during all of this, you have Finn and Rose basically going on this quest to find this guy, get arrested in this basically slave owner town, or like a very rich place, and basically break out of there with animals where Rose grew up. They're like these really rare animals which are getting abused. It kind of felt like really out of place, where you have, I mean, the design of the animals in this movie were really cool, but I just felt so out of place. The entire sequence could have just been cut out of the movie, because it's basically just a long sidestep of getting Benicio del Toro and getting him to a Snoke ship to remove the tracker. And he's a little bit weird, and yeah, and basically they get out of the prison with his help, of course, while getting chased, and he of course saves them with, I mean, if I'm all over the place, I'm probably gonna do another follow-up, but these are just my thoughts coming out of this as fresh. And I mean, there's just so much of the movie which makes no sense at all. So during you have these two, and then they go basically back to the ship. Meanwhile, you have Poe and Leia being chased Battlestar Galactica style, by Hux, Snoke, and Kylo Ren. And Kylo Ren basically bombards the ship, destroys Poe's ship, so he can't really defend the ship. And he has the sights, or Leia in her sights, the bridge, and he can't pull the trigger because he's conflicted. And some two other ships just fire the missiles and basically kill all on the bridge. But this is probably the most insane part of the movie, is where Leia, she should have been dead because Admiral Akbar, it's a trap guy, and everyone else on the bridge is dead. But suddenly, if you remember Batman vs. Superman, where Superman gets nuked in orbit, you have Leia suddenly starting to fly in fucking space, where she can't breathe, and floats back to the ship, and Poe saves her. Like, I'm not kidding you. She flies back to the ship, Superman style, and it basically goes into a coma of sorts. Anyway. That's just holy shit. Who's writing this? And oh my god. Meanwhile, you have Luke on the island, getting back to the Force, and he actually gets back into things because Rey noticed he had locked himself off from the Force, so he was basically regressing, and noticed that he was really powerful. So now we have basically second to third act, where most of it goes on the ship. You have Finn and Rose basically sneaking around trying to disable, but they get caught. And here you have Captain Phasma, who basically catches them, and it turns out, surprise, surprise, I saw this in the leaked script about a year ago. He betrays them for lots of money. And then they are basically getting or about to get executed. And all the while, Rey has come and gone all up to the throne room. This is another scene where I'm just like, the writing is so bad and so unoriginal. The entire throne room scene is such a throwback to episode 6 between Sidious, Vader, and Luke. Sorry, I'm just grabbing something to drink. And you basically have Snoke, who has finally caught Rey, because Kylo is bringing her to him. And Snoke is really powerful, and he seems to be torturing and force pulling her all over the place because he wants to torture her. He also shows her that the resistance is basically getting killed off, because you have the people, or Finn and Rose, basically about to be executed by Phasma down below. And while on the ship, you had Leia, who woke up again because of Luke getting in touch with his force powers. Poe wanted, of course, to be brave and headstrong, and wanted to basically help Finn and Rose do this plan, but he of course found out they were getting caught. And Leia, of course, stops the plan of him doing this, jumping to light speed, because they can't jump to light speed because they are getting tracked and they are low on fuel. So Leia is basically telling everyone to evacuate, and the only good character on that side story was Laura Dern's character with the purple hair. She's not in the trailers, I believe, because all the while she just seems incompetent and just emotionless. She actually had a really good plan that they were gonna evacuate all of them, and she was gonna stay on board and basically, lead everyone off with cloaks and not getting detected, while the main ship, basically her sacrificing herself, and they just went past, and they could have gone to the outpost on a planet and be safe. The problem is that Benicio del Toro helps the First Order, and they notice them leaving, and they basically shoot at them. And this is where Snoke shows them he's basically killing off the resistance, or what's left of it. Which, I mean, the scale of it just feels so bad. I mean, it's the resistance is basically what, like three ships. I mean, that makes no sense at all either. And they are getting picked off, and they're ignoring shooting on the main ship where Laura Dern's Admiral Haldo or something like that, she's called. She then changes her mind and is gonna turn around. Meanwhile, in the throne room, Snoke has now tortured and thrown around Rey a little bit, and he has decided to Kylo, to make the full turn to the dark side. He has to kill Rey. So he basically puts her on her knees in front of him, gives him his lightsaber, and basically stab her. So he's getting ready to stab her. He just turns so Snoke has gotten the lightsaber from Rey, and basically wants and has had a toyed with it because she's tried to get it sometimes, but he's so much more powerful than Kylo and even Rey. That's also the only time in the movie where Rey is actually struggling. So it was a nice change of pace, because otherwise in the movie she's just lecturing Luke how bad of a Jedi he is. And this is where Snoke just ignores the lightsaber for some reason. Kylo turns the lightsaber and just slashes Snoke in two. So you have the big villain of the movie is entire waste. Episode 7 and Episode 8 with Snoke was a waste. He basically just Darth Maul's Snoke, just like that. And suddenly he's the big baddie. Like he's much weaker than Snoke. But just like that, like Snoke, you don't even know who Snoke is. Why is he so strong? Who is he? What was the point of Snoke even in the first place? He just gets killed off just like that. What if he's so powerful? How can he not notice the goddamn lightsaber turning on his side and just gets chopped into two, just like that? So his character is basically one big fucking waste. There's the, I mean, yeah. So this is also where this is probably, yeah, this is the best part of the movie. Is basically where Kylo Ren and Rey are fighting the guard of Snoke. You remember the guys from the Death Star scene where they just leave? This time they don't leave. And there's a pretty awesome fight where Kylo Ren and Rey kill all of them. And this is where Kylo says, he gives his reasoning. Why did you kill Han? He was your father. And he basically says, I don't want to get rid of anything of the old. I want to create something new. Which makes no fucking sense. Why? Well, why? There's no reasoning behind it. He just wants to kill everything old because it's old. Like, the motivation behind it. The entire movie, they tease this connection between Kylo and Rey, well, which Snoke apparently made, which they could talk to each other through the Force to lure Rey into the throne room. But, like, and he's been torn the entire movie, and then just says, no, I didn't really have any motivation except for having removing everything that's old, even Snoke, even my Han Solo and Luke. And this is where they basically have a force off, where Rey force pulls the lightsaber from Kylo again, and they basically struggle who gets the lightsaber. And this is where Laura Dern, the Admiral Hyldo, turns around and basically goes into light speed and destroys all the ships, which is also a cool moment. So you have three basically cool moments. You have the opening scene, you have the fight between with Kylo Ren and Rey in the throne room, and you have that where it basically destroys all of them. So now you have and explodes, and Finn and Rose basically get their ass saved. And then they start running around with BB-8 having a walker or a ATST, I think it's called, the one in episode 6, running around, killing all the Ewoks, and all the while, you have Finn and Rose shooting everything they can, and then you of course have Phasma, and this is a big fight you see in the trailer. Now, in the fight, Finn basically does get owned, and so this is also a really weird scene. You have Phasma, or her armor is actually really hardcore, where Rose shoots at it, but she doesn't get phased, so she can't actually be killed by regular shots. So she basically wins the fight and pushes him off a ledge, not checking if he's dead. Then goes and shoots at Rose. Then Finn, there's a platform coming up for some reason, and he hits the final blow on Phasma. Sorry, I'm getting a sore throat. And you see her eye through the helmet because it's busted up, and the entire ship is basically going to shit because of the ship going into lightspeed and destroying all of them. And Oh my god, this is so cringy. She basically says she's basically down for the count and about to die, and she says, "You were always scum," and Finn says, "I'm rebel scum. No, I'm rebel scum," and she dies, just like that. Like, what the fuck? Just so freaking cringy. And they get off the ship, which is in really bad shape. The main ship, which is just huge, which I forgot to mention. Anyways, if you're so far into this, and it doesn't make really sense, please ask me to clarify in the comments, or oh yeah, it's also because I just came out of the movie, and also I'm so angry at the writing of the movie. Anyways, so now you have the people who were on the transport going to the planet, to the fortification, and this is also in the trailers. So they go into the base and basically have to defend it, because Kylo is basically commander now. Hux asks, "Oh, are you the supreme commander?" And he basically chokes him. Okay, I get it. And they send the walkers down to the planet. And you now have the scene of episode. So you have already elements of episode 5 regarding the training. You have the throne room scene of episode 6, and now you have the start of episode 5 with the walker scene, which you have also seen in the trailer. And again, during all of this, it's a lot of there's so much ludonarrative dissonance. What that means, it's a very serious moment, and there's always humor. It's throughout the entire goddamn movie, and the tone of the movie just gets ruined by all the slapstick humor. I mean, it's fine in some of the scenes, but it makes Jar Jar Binks look moderate compared to this movie, because it's in every goddamn scene there's some sort of humor. And it's even worse than episode. Oh my! I have to admit, some of them were funny, but why put them in when they don't make any sense to the plot? Which again is shown when Poe. Well, you saw the scene with all of the ships flying against the walkers, and this makes no sense either. Finn and Rose can suddenly pilot a ship, which he couldn't in episode 7. How is that possible? How the hell is that possible? And it's not. And Rose wasn't even a pilot. She was someone doing like the pipes, and they can suddenly fly. What the fuck? Does everyone just do stuff in these movies? I mean. There is no progression or struggle, just people, oh, you can do this. So you basically have the rest of the rebels, like 200 of them on this planet with walkers. And Luke is nowhere to be seen. He's nowhere. He's just meditating on this planet. And they basically get owned really hardcore. Where actually Finn wants to sacrifice himself to stop them using some sort of battering ram because the base is heavily fortified, so it would not be possible for them to get through with the regular walkers. So he wants to sacrifice himself because everyone else is getting shot, and Rose just crashes into him, saving his life, I guess, for some reason, and then basically says, and stuff isn't worth dying for when it's worth saving. Something cheesy like that, and she passes out, and he has to get her back. So now we have Poe and everyone back in the base, which they at this point they're basically fucked. And suddenly Luke shows up. He has a conversation with Leia, saying nothing is ever truly lost, and says that Kylo is not... he can't be saved like Vader. And goes out to face all of the walkers and Kylo. And all of the walkers basically shoot at him into an oblivion, but he just... again, this is another like funny moment for some reason, and he just goes out of the blast and just brushes it off his shoulder like nothing. And Kylo then goes out to face him. Now this should have been the coolest scene in all of Star Wars. Should have been better than the Sidious Yoda fight. Should have been better than the Obi-Wan Anakin Skywalker fight in Episode 3, or any of the other fights. This fight was really short, a little bit awesome, but they didn't really do much. And when Kylo goes in, Luke just turns off the lightsaber because he says, "I can't save you." And it turns out Luke is doing this as a distraction for everyone to go off. Rey, I forgot to say this. Rey with the Millennium Falcon drew all of the fighters away. And basically blew them up, because she is Mary Sue, and she notices that they are in this base and wants to get them out, because they can't really get out of the base, but they notice also that these are also cool animals, which basically walk out on the other side of this base, even though it was told they couldn't get out of the base, which again makes no sense. If they were told they couldn't get out of the base, but suddenly anyways, writing horrible. And they go out and follow these kind of foxes, which are really cool, like silver foxes. And Rey or Poe finds out they are basically trapped because there are a lot of rocks in the way. Meanwhile, Luke turns off his lightsaber and says, "I can't save you. You are beyond saving." And then Kylo runs towards him with Luke and his lightsaber down, and just slashes him. Turns around, Luke is still all right, and he goes over to him, puts the lightsaber through him, and he's a projection. Luke is a projection. And he says goodbye or something, and Kylo notices that the resistance is gone. And this is probably what angers me the most. Luke Skywalker dies because he exerted himself so much. Just looks at the sun and dies, basically falls asleep like Yoda did in episode 6. And all the while, he said, basically, before he died, he said that Rey was the future and he wasn't the last Jedi. He had taught her what she needed. And Rey is just way more powerful than Luke at this point, because she basically removes all the rocks that are in the way and gets all of the resistance fighters out. And she and Leia noticed that Luke died, but said it was more of a peace thing, and they basically fly off, and they didn't get any responses from any. When they basically were fucked, no one of their allies came to them. It was just Luke who basically saved their asses. So, I mean, you have like, I don't know, 50 people from the Resistance, and you have a First Order which is just, for some reason, it didn't even make sense in episode 7. It's just so much more powerful. So, my thoughts. What are my thoughts? So, you had the big thing of the opening scene was cool. You had the fight in the throne room, the kamikaze attack from Admiral Haldon, whatever her name is, and just small glimpse of what was awesome about Luke Skywalker. But still. And you have some highs which are higher than episode 7, but the lows are way worse than episode 7. Rey is still a fucking Mary Sue, where the only one who could have actually taken her was Snoke, and he just gets discarded like that. Why didn't they just make a build up to a big fight in episode 9 between Luke and Snoke and Rey and versus Kylo? Why? It makes no sense. And they kill off Luke Skywalker. Oh my god. Without having him let him have a proper fight. They could have done this in episode 7 in the forest, where he force pulls with a lightsaber, gets force pulled, and he could have trashed Kylo Ren. But no, in Disney and all its wisdom, kill off Luke Skywalker, the big bad Snoke. You have Yoda shooting fucking lightning out of the sky, Leia being a Superman, and Finn and Rose's quest to get this guy, this coder or thief, made no fucking sense at all, because in the end they didn't even need that. It just frustrates me how this was able to and Rey is nobody, and at the end of the movie, at the so-called rich planet, one of the children who helped them release those animals is force sensitive and is basically nobody. That makes no sense. So the entire thing of force sensitive and strong people isn't that you have the chosen ones, like the Skywalker family. You have just random people like Rey getting stronger than the Skywalker family for no reason at all, and you have this, apparently the next generation, this child is gonna be in the next trilogy, and is force sensitive because you see him force pull a broom to him. So what? They're basically shitting on George Lucas and even the prequels so hard on this because the Skywalker family is supposed to be so outrageously strong. And Rey doesn't even have... She has one fucking day of training. One fucking day of training. And she still can outdo Luke Skywalker. And is smarter than him, lectures him, and finds out she's a nobody, and can still, in this movie, compete with Kylo Ren, who's all his life trained in the Force. And Leia being a Superman still makes no fucking sense. They have basically ruined. What are they gonna do with Leia? What the fuck are they gonna do with Leia? They basically fucked themselves royally. Han is dead. Luke is dead. Carrie Fisher is dead in real life. How the fuck are they gonna end episode 9? She was supposed to be a big part of it. They've basically cornered themselves by their atrocious writing. I can even accept, at the very least, Kylo killing Han Solo. But why do you kill off Luke Skywalker? I mean, at the best, he's gonna return as a Force ghost. But Rey doesn't need any guidance, so why would he be in episode 9? I'm just so... I talked to my friend and his girlfriend while watching this, and the more we talked about it, it was exactly like episode 7. The more angry he got, and the more angry I got. Like, why the fuck can Yoda shoot fucking lightning and just burn a tree and yeah? How is that even possible? They're Force ghosts. This goes against everything Lucas set up. Everything. The Force ghosts are not supposed to have influence when they're in the Force. Oh my god. It's the only reason even I went to watch this movie, because I was gonna boycott this, was because my friend invited me and said he had an extra ticket because someone else had to work. I'm just gonna ignore all the movies from now on. Episode 9 is gonna be a shit show. J.J. Abrams is gonna direct it. Rian Johnson is gonna direct the new trilogy. Nice. He's gonna... I'm just gonna enjoy the 6 first movies, which are way better than any of this, and I'm gonna enjoy Rogue One. Rogue One is a good movie. I know people out there hate it. Me, I loved it. So for me, as canon, I consider 1 through 6 and Rogue One. I'm gonna have them close to my heart. Hopefully, maybe, or the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie is gonna be awesome. But my hopes, I had no expectations going into this movie, and they still failed. How the fuck can you fuck up one of the most... This is basically like Battlefront 2. and there are loot boxes. Just they made it with a fucking movie. How can you fuck up something so awesome where you have three of the most beloved characters ever in movie cinema history, and you fuck it up? I'm not even angry at this point. I'm just like, what am I supposed to say? It's just, it's so sad. They're just raping the corpse of Star Wars, and there's gonna be a new Star Wars movie every year. Every year. And the new trilogy is not gonna be in the Old Republic. It's probably gonna be the kid from this movie, because the actor of Rey said she's not gonna be she's not gonna be in the movies beyond 9. So it has to be. Jesus Christ. It's so sad. It's anyways, I don't know how they can fuck it up even worse from Force Awakens. They had some highs, I have to admit that, but the lows, oh my god. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and see you guys next time. Bye.